for the first time, we can say confidently that there's been a finding that some of that espionage, that spying on Americans, actually violated the law. So we've gone from something that at the beginning, when Susan Rice first defended herself.
The allegation is that somehow Obama administration officials utilized intelligence for political purposes. That's absolutely false.
To now, yes, we violated those rules, and they disclosed that just days before Trump was elected president.
This is an amazing abuse of power, and it dwarfs any of the other sort of made-up stuff that we're looking into now.
This is a big story. Declassified documents first obtained by the news outlet Circa show the FISA court sharply rebuking the Obama administration for essentially doing what was alleged, unmasking at big numbers, thousands of Americans falling up into this collection. And we're just getting the fallout from it today. Let's bring in our panel. Molly Hemingway, senior editor at The Federalist, A.B. Stoddard, associate editor at Real Clear Politics, and syndicated columnist Charles Krauthammer. Molly, this has obviously been focusing, swirling around on Capitol Hill, but to see the actual FISA court rebuke is pretty stunning.
Yeah, to learn that the Obama administration was routinely violating the privacy protections of Americans, violating their Fourth Amendment rights, is stunning. And God bless John Solomon and Sarah Carter for digging into this, because we have an entire media complex that supposedly cares about democracy dying in darkness. And yet when this ruling first came out, they accepted the sort of anodyne statement from intelligence agencies that the big news was just they were going to stop doing some email collection program that they'd been doing. And these are the types of stories that need to be dug into aggressively by many reporters to find out more about precisely what these violations were, who was impacted by them, and what is being done to truly correct it. Because this was also the kind of thing that they had previously been warned about, and they didn't fix it. They didn't change the oversight. And that is something that can't continue into this administration.
This comes as there's a renewal of the ability to do this.
Right.
And this is a big debate now on Capitol Hill.
Well, it has to become a bigger debate, I think, off of Capitol Hill, because there are two sides to metadata collection and what the NSA does. A lot of people think it's necessary to keep us safe. I don't know if it grew by 3 times the amount of collection, I don't know that many numbers were all for political purposes, but the point is, what's so glaring about the FISA court opinion is it actually says that they never actually adopted the compliance mechanisms that they were required to in 2011. So they were pretending they were complying, but they didn't even put a system in place for the oversight that was required of them. How can that happen? So this has to be scrutinized by everyone on both sides of that debate, whether we need more collection or we need less.
But it falls into the current investigations as well in this context. I mean, it's the end of the Obama administration. It has exponentially increased this unmasking, if you will, and the FISA judges blasting the NSA's institutional lack of candor, adding this is a very serious Fourth Amendment issue. And clearly in these documents, they're frustrated. They're losing patience.
And I think it will cause there to be new institutional safeguards. I think the debate over whether or not to have the metadata, the metadata is sort of over. We had it. We have this tremendous capacity to scoop up the data and to analyze it. The problem is the power it gives the people who scoop it up and the oversight. Now, clearly what we had was a defiance of the courts. I'm worried that this is going to get caught up with pure partisanship. It looks as if it was abused by the Obama administration. What I think we ought to be thinking about is how do you institute new mechanisms that will be adhered to and oversight perhaps from the Congress, but also from the courts, so that it's not abused in the future. I'm just worried that we're going to be obsessed with who did what to whom when, looking to find scapegoats and to retroactively put the Obama administration on trial. There are probably abuses that ought to be exposed and people punished, but that's not the major issue. The major issue, we're in a new age. We have new capacities. How do you harness it?
But if there's evidence of a political element to this, it changes the dynamic of what we've been covering.
Well, it certainly would, but I do think it is important to think of this as one of the things that came out was that the CIA was responsible for most of the violations. Well, that happened also in the 70s when it came out that the CIA was spying on Americans. We had Church Commission hearings to make sure that we were protecting the rights of Americans, and that does need to happen apart from the political story. Having said that, we did just come out of an administration that does appear to have been engaged in some type of political use of espionage, whether that was dealing with the negotiations on the Iran deal or something to do with the Trump administration, and we do need to get to the bottom of that too. But these are two separate and important issues.
But the Church Commission is a good example of how as Americans, we tend to overshoot. It had to be done. It had to be a corrective. There were tremendous abuses. But it's so overshot that according to people who are sort of in the business for several decades, our ability to spy was very much diminished, and we suffered as a consequence.